next guest speaker is Jemma, a mental health occupational therapist at the Barnstaple Alliance Primary Care Network for Branham, Fremington, Lichton and Queen's Medical Centre. And Jemma is facilitating new menopause workshops available from Barnstaple Alliance Primary Care Network. Hey, good evening. Hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about the workshops I'm going to offer sort of around autumn time. I just need some time to kind of plan it, put it all together, make sure it's kind of giving ladies what they need and what they want in terms of the information and advice. But I thought I'd just start off by explaining what an occupational therapist is and what business I have in mental health and talking to you about menopause. Because most of the time when people look at my role as an OT, they kind of go, well, don't you just prescribe equipment? What are you doing talking about mental health? Aren't you just there to provide raised toilet seats? I can do that for you ladies. I can prescribe equipment, but that's not all of my skill set. So as an occupational therapist, what I'm very keen to look at is the relationship between the person. So what is it about the person that they're kind of not feeling, i.e. themselves, basically. So what has happened, what has changed in their role, what has changed in their mental health, their physical health, to kind of make them just feel different and in need of support. So it's looking at the person, it's kind of then looking at the environment. So what is it about the environment that has changed or is not working for that person anymore to create a bit of disruption? To use a fancy jargon term, occupational disruption. So what has got in the way of you achieving what it is you need and want to do, i.e. your occupations. So if you think of that as a triangle, so the person, the environment and the occupation, when things are working really well with our physical and our mental health, that triangle works beautifully and we function really well. When any aspect of that triangle starts to falter a little bit, we start to experience difficulties with our physical and our mental health. So as an occupational therapist, menopause is a big occupational disruptor because it gets in the way of us being able to do what we want and need to do for various different reasons. So a big aspect of that for a lot of women I speak to is interference in their ability to carry out their role. So their role as a wife, a mother, a person that works, a person that is there to kind of, you're there holding everybody else up, but when things start to feel a little bit shaky in yourself, that becomes more and more difficult to do. So how do we start to think about overcoming the barriers that menopause or perimenopause gives us? So I'm hoping to do that with this workshop. So it will look at that person, occupation and environment link, that triangle, and it will hopefully give you some ideas as to how to manage a bit of the lifestyle stuff. So some of that we've talked about today, but more importantly, how do we make that environment stuff work for you? What is going on in your environment that could be adjusted, that you could feel more in control of to help you function? I also talk about employment a lot as well, because that's a bit of a hot topic in most workplace settings at the moment. Employers are getting better at acknowledging that women go through menopause and perimenopause, but we're not quite there yet. So we still have some really, really awful draconian attitudes to menopause in the workplace. And I hear some horror stories from a lot of women I speak to about not being able to have the things that they need. Common example is not having flexibility with breaks. So if you're really struggling and you need to go on a break, it's not having the flexibility to do that on your terms, and that can be really difficult. Not having access to ventilation, would you believe? I've heard some women say that they work in really small, tiny offices, no windows, no light, they're in little boxes, and hot flushes are just an absolute nightmare to cope with in that environment. And when they do speak up and say, actually, could you help me out? I need some adjustments. Their employer kind of goes, you what? What do you mean? You're fine, crack on, is kind of most of the experiences that women I speak to have, sadly. So I'm on a mission to kind of inform women about the changes that they can ask for, the accommodations that they're entitled to ask for in the workplace. I talk a lot about an organisation called Henpicked, which I don't know if any of you have come across, but they work wonders in employment settings. So they are an organisation that will go into any employer and they will give them menopause training. So they will give them the tools and the advice they need to help women in the workplace to get a better experience of work, essentially, so that you are able to maintain your employment for longer. Because a lot of women sadly end up leaving their roles, leaving their jobs. Bang goes your sense of purpose, bang goes your sense of productivity, the worse your mental health gets. So if we can prevent that at any stage, that's what I'm hoping to kind of get across in these workshops. So yes, hopefully what I'm talking about sounds like it might be helpful, and if you would like to kind of come along to these workshops, if you are at any of the 4 surgeries I work in, so Lichton, Fremington, Branham or Queen's, you'll get an invite around sort of autumn time to join those workshops if you think, yeah, that sounds helpful. There'll be a one-off session, but hopefully it will contain the information you need to help you function during menopause and perimenopause.